Can you hear me, Michael? I see you haven't joined with the right one. Let me make you a presenter, Michael. Bear with me. Michael, make a presenter. Okay, let's wait for the others now.
It's weird. I thought I took a long time to get in with the one I thought was sent with the invite, but there we go.
That's strange, because actually you've come in as a member of audience rather than as a presenter.
Yeah.
I take it you joined with another email to the one that I sent you, or
I thought
sorry, that you sent me. My bad.
I'm not sure, but we're
I think I added you to the one that said info@Michael something.
Yeah,
I might be wrong.
That's this one.
It's weird.
Yeah.
This thing's got a mind of its own, unfortunately, man. But
Teams is the way.
and it's really weird. Normally it was fine, but let's hope the others are going to be able to join us okay. Now, unfortunately, there may be a bit of an echo as I'm doing this.
Good at the minute.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I'm doing this from my hospital bed, and I can't leave my computer away because I'm live streaming it to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah.
So I kind of need two devices. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do it otherwise. But
it's a commitment to the cause, that.
Should have Mario and Adrian join us soon. Adrian is writing something down now, but nevertheless, for crying out loud. Okay, let me just send a link to them to join. That's what happens when people don't follow instructions, unfortunately. Right, let me just send them. Okay. All right, so I've just sent it to them. Okay. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Startup Product and Tech Q&A. It's our 139th session, if I'm not mistaken. And we've been doing these for almost 4 years now, where we've sought to help basically founders with whatever questions you may have whilst building your product and tech. Anything from, let's say, your product roadmap to your design, to your prototype, to your testing, landing page, app, websites, low to no codes, automation, or even launching your MVP, and actually anything in between or beyond for that matter, as long as it's to do with product and tech. This is your hour. We will be here for the next 57 minutes now, and you can ask us any questions you wish on that front. If you are tuning in via LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions live there. So you would need to join us interactively here via Microsoft Teams. And by the way, here on Microsoft Teams, all you have to do if you are here is type your question in the chat, and then I will unmute you so you can ask our panelists. Now, the way this works is we'll go through a quick introduction, and then we will open it for questions to the panel, really. You see, unfortunately, over 90% of startups fail. And the top 3 reasons for that are: 1, market fit; 2, running out of money; and 3, not having the right people. And there couldn't be anything more important about your ability not only to make sure you don't die, but you survive, but you actually thrive, than your ability to sort out your product or tech. And that's why we're doing this, and we're doing it for free. If, by the way, you've got questions on other matters, please save them for the other rooms, or the other conversations, rather, shall I say, that we do. On Mondays, it's talent. On Tuesdays, as you can see today, it's product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth. On Thursdays, it's fundraising. On the second Friday of each month, it's a UK startup legal Q&A. And on the third Friday of each month, there's one on finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And you may RSVP and join any of those via our site, StartUp to ScaleUp.club. Actually, a good thing to do there is to also go and join our WhatsApp group. So when you go to our site, you'll be able to get onto our WhatsApp group. There's an icon of it, top and bottom of the web page. And there you'll get alerts to all future rooms. Also, for those of you, again, that are listening in now via LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, there is a link that will take you directly to our Microsoft Teams. If you want to join the conversation interactively, i.e. ask questions, because unfortunately, we're unable to monitor your questions there. And if for any reason that link doesn't work, please just go to our website, startup2scaleup.club, find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 139. It's easy to find it because it's got today's date, 4th of the 2nd. And then it's a quick 5 seconds registration, and you're straight into Microsoft Teams. But now, without further ado, let's go on to the presentations from the panel. And for the others here, please do feel free to start typing your questions, because trust me, 53 minutes go much faster than you would expect. So type your questions in the chat here on Microsoft Teams, and then I will unmute you so you can ask the panel. Now, my name's Anton Call. I'm an Albanian in London, working with startups. Normally, right after they get investment, I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with a few other startups. And lately, I've been helping some angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessment. And now I guess we can go in the same order that we joined. So perhaps Michael first, then Adrian, then Mario. Take it away, please, fellas.
Sure, no problem. I am Mike. I'm a CTO at Riska. I've been involved in technology for over 15 years. I started in the tech side, come from music. I've done everything from big corporate roles with the likes of Apple and Google down to startups and scaled to 2 million users. I've also just in the past year founded a venture studio called Lithium Studios, which is validating ideas in the B2B SaaS space.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Mike. Adrian.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Adrian. I'm working at the moment in a software as a service product service. It's called Blockmark Technologies, to do with digital certificate management. In the past, I've been involved in event management and other science and tech kind of ventures and companies. I started an anti-counterfeiting technology company in Singapore called Singular ID, which I took through venture capital finance, developed the product with my colleagues, and then exited.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Mario.
Hi, Anton. Hi, everyone. My name is Mario. I'm a consultant working as a CTO for smaller startups, smaller companies, usually B2B SaaS. I'll help non-technical founders with technology strategy, team management, MVP development, and so on.
Well, thank you very much, Mario. Thank you to all of you. Well, you've heard them, people. We've got three brilliant lads with quite an expertise and a track record behind them in both product and tech. And they're going to be here now for the next 50 minutes only to take any questions you may have once you're building your early stage product or technology. By the way, there are no wrong questions and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. All you have to do is, if you are here on Microsoft Teams, you need to type your question in the chat, and then I will give you the mic to ask the panel, and you just quickly introduce yourself and your startup, and then fire away with your question. If, however, you are tuning in via LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there live. So you would need to join us here on Microsoft Teams if you want to become part of the conversation and get guidance that works for you by asking our experts. And to do that, you've got a link on all of those live streams. Please copy and paste or click the link. If for any reason those links aren't working for you right now, don't worry. All you have to do is go to our website, startup-to-scaleup.club, and find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 139. And whilst I'm doing this reset, perhaps the panelists want to think of some do's and don'ts in terms of early stage product and tech, and let's try and keep all our answers today to 1 minute, please, panel. 1 minute each, that is. Now, as far as today's question, as I said, they can be on anything to do with product and tech. So from your product roadmap to your design, prototype, testing, low to no code, automation, landing page, apps, DevOps, full stack, just your website in general, and all the way to launching your MVP and anything within that sphere, really. All you have to do is here on Microsoft Teams, type your question in the chat, and then I'll give you the mic. Now, if your questions today are not on product or tech, please save them for the other rooms. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month, UK startup law, and third Friday of the month, finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to them via our site, startup-to-scaleup.club, or you can actually, a good thing to do is to join our WhatsApp group, which there's an icon of it on our website, and that way you'll receive you'll receive alerts for future Q&As that we do. Now, let's start with the do's and don'ts, 1 minute each, maybe 1 or 2 each. We will perhaps start this time from Adrian to Mario to Mike, please.
Okay, yeah. Well, in terms of do's, I would say do spend some time specifying what you want for your product and service amongst both yourself and your team. A lot of people sort of jump the gun on this and start creating a product or a service without fully working out what they want it to do. So this could be literally writing down a specification, doing some storyboards, writing out how the process flow is going to work, or creating, you know, even the user interface and how that's going to function. And because it's very costly later on, both in time and money, to make changes or add things that you didn't think of that are basic, you know, part of the actual offering. Obviously, as you progress, you will want to modify your product. If it's a software product, you should be able to do that relatively easy. But if it's a physical product, changes can be really expensive in the future. So, for example, you've made a mold. Physical molds for a physical product are very, very expensive. And therefore, don't underestimate the cost, even for software. A lot of people think that they can create a software app or software service that's going to be very inexpensive. It's surprising how expensive it is to run, for example, on the cloud, maintain it, maintain the code, employ people to do that, or consultants to do that, depending how you go down the route. So those are my 2 things, really.
Is it me now?
Yes, it is, Mario. Sorry, buddy.
Oh,
Me and my
yeah.
fat thumbs. But yes, so it's you and then Mike.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. So about do's and don'ts, and design is way cheaper than software development, right? So, you know, for those early stage guys, they probably want to spend a lot of time in Figma with designer, with someone to build wireframes, whatever, to get that idea developed before they come to developers. They should come to developers as late as possible and as developed as possible. And now I'm going through 2 MVPs at the moment, and even those wireframes, they've been changed during discovery with developers, because you know, going through it and you realize things that you didn't know before. So as much talk discussion as possible, as much different perspectives as possible, and as much as cheap work, cheaper work as possible in the beginning. That would probably save some time and money down the road. So that's for this week, I guess.
Thanks, Mario. Mike?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think the big thing on top of what's already been mentioned is, before you even get into those stages, talk to your customers and figure out exactly what they actually want. I think there's even rushing to design, you know, you might have an idea. I think it's a good idea to maybe get an initial concept that you can kind of talk through, because visuals do make a difference. But just getting close to your customers is really, really important, and keeping them close through all of those stages, because yeah, it's without it, you're going to build the wrong product, you're going to waste a lot of time and money, and ultimately it can be the thing that stops you from succeeding. So yeah, get close to your customer. And then the only don't is kind of don't build software first, because it never goes the way you expect, and you ultimately will have to undo what you started.
Well, that is some brilliant stuff from all 3 of you, and I really appreciate you for that. Well, now it's time we take some questions. I've put a question that was sent in to us in writing that's in the chat room. If you gentlemen of the panel want to read it or go through it and prep, and then I'll read it out loud for those founders that are tuning in via LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. By the way, those of you that are doing that, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions live there. So if you do have any questions for our panel, you'll need to join us live and interactively here on Microsoft Teams. You can either click or copy and paste the link that should be on all those streams, or simply go to startup2scaleup.club and find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 139. And by the way, if you do find any value in what we're discussing and the help we're giving here today, please feel free to spread the news. You see, we've had over 270,000 people join us in almost 4 years now, but because we've changed platforms lately, I think we need all the help we can get in spreading the news. So if you do find any value in this, we'd appreciate it. Anyway, we are only going to be here now for the next 42 minutes. So if you do have any questions, you'd need to join us here on Microsoft Teams. And those that are already on Teams, if you do have questions, just type it in the chat room and I will then give you the mic to ask the panelists. Nevertheless, the next question that was sent in to us, it's from somebody in Edinburgh. She's a travel tech founder and she says, our platform offers personalized travel itineraries. Should we focus on building a recommendation engine from scratch or use some existing AI-based recommendation service? I forgot to copy it properly. She's put then in brackets, worried about cost. What should we consider in terms of user data, personalization, accuracy, and technical challenges when creating a tool that learns and improves based on user preference? Oh boy, I don't even know where to start with this. Let's start with perhaps Mario, then Mike, then Adrian, please. Mario?
Yeah, okay. So what should you consider in terms of user data, personalization, accuracy? Yeah, so what they would and should consider is not building this on their own, right? Because those things are become more and more complex, more and more competitive, and same with AI. So basically, don't build AI; you build on someone's AI, right? And same things with this recommendation. I had a project similar to this, and we just use something from AWS. They have a recommendation engine. We basically kind of model what you want to recommend, pass user data, and get recommendation based on the data that you provide for, right? So my point here is being look around what's on the market. There's different companies offering personalization engines, and you build on top of them, and then you figure it out. Otherwise, this like deep tech is expensive, probably not the best thing to do for younger startups without money, without expertise, without time to build it properly. So we just build kind of small layers on top of other people's work, and that's for most startup is the way to go, especially when it comes to let's say more complex things such as this one.
Fair enough. Thank you. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I kind of echo what Mario is saying there. From a cost perspective, I know you're worried about the cost of AI, but building it yourself is going to cost a hell of a lot more, especially in the beginning. Maybe once you've figured out exactly what you need, then that might be a different story. But don't forget that those man hours is time, it is cost, and it's really important, not to mention all the infrastructure side you need to build up RAG systems and all that sort of stuff on top of that. In terms of like what should you consider, I think the big thing here is kind of flip that on its head and talk to your customers and understand what they want, because then that kind of tells you everything you need in terms of user data. Like, talk to them, what are they willing to give you, and equally, what are they scared to give you, especially if you're utilizing AI. Like, there are people who have concerns, so speak to them first, and then you can make the correct decisions to come up with the right solution for that.
Thanks, Mike. Adrian?
Yeah, I would, well, echo what's just been said, really, but I would also think about how you compartmentalize the data. So you're going to be generating data on your clients about what they like or what they've done in the past, looking at the question to do with travel. Then what you, as sort of described, you want to use a third-party AI, large language model, etc., to kind of mine your information and keep it separate. So you don't want your information, which could eventually become, you know, a part of the value of your company, to be leaked back into other people's models and training. But you want to use those models to generate useful content for your clients. So think about the data you're collecting, as well as how you're going to use it and firewall it from the tools that are being used to create, you know, the recommendations, etc., that you've talked about.
Thank you. And if I may, just another follow-up or reiteration, rather, especially on what you just touched again, Adrian. I saw yesterday, I think, from somebody who's started up a few times. He was also, from time to time, he would join us in our growth room as a panelist. But he was talking about some work he tried to do for his mental health app, and he used the latest frenzy of Chinese AI. And he said that after a couple of days, they decided to go against it because, unfortunately, they keep all of that data, and in their T's and C's, basically, they pretty much say that it's theirs the moment you plug it in. What is the deal with others, you know, from your AWSs to Google to maybe your Claudes and OpenAI and what have you? Because at least based on what I've seen in the news, it seems that pretty much all of them, even the ones that you pay quite a hefty fee, will one way or another augment and pretty much collect that data. Is there a way around it, or you know, is the media just scaring people off? I guess we can start from the last one, so we can go with Adrian, then Mike, then Mario, please.
Yep. Yeah, so I think you have to be very careful, and you need to read the terms and conditions of the tool you decide to use, because they could be using it just for training, or they could actually be harvesting the data for other applications. I mean, much like social media, you know, we all get used to sharing things on social media. We probably don't know where all that data goes. I would say it is possible also to have a standalone large language model that you control and that you use to do your work for you, and it can still be someone else's model that you've imported. You know, there are, again, open source things, there are terms and conditions relating to how those can work. So the devil's in the detail. You've got to read terms and conditions definitely before you start using things like this, because of where the data ends up.
Yeah, I think on top of that, it's, I mean, a lot of them in their terms do have that if you're at least going through the API side of things rather than just a chat interface, that they won't use it for their own, you know, internal training, but you can trust it as much as you want based on everything that's going on in the media right now. I think there is a bit of scaremongering going on in the media too. But naturally, these things have to evolve somehow with some input. So do be careful. You can run things in isolation. You can download open source models and add those up to a certain point. Even Anthropic allow you to do that to a certain degree. And you can utilize theirs, and that you essentially switch it off to them being able to give you a new model. You just have it as it's trained at that point, and then you can give it extra information from there. You can utilize things like Bedrock with AWS to do that, to set it up infrastructure wise, or equally spin it up locally in your own network so you can stop calls going out. That's the other way, is just throttle down network connections going out to where they go so that they only stay in your system.
Thank you very much, Mike. Mario, did you want to add anything here?
I mean, just a bit, for sure, those guys are all about data. So, you know, just like logic of their system, of their product, means they do use those data. And now having a case where we need to work with Anthropic to have like zero data retention policy on one client, because they do legal contracts and whatnot. So it's kind of important for them for those contracts to go away immediately from Anthropic servers. And it's very, very hard to do it. So it's like back and forth with their emails, like support, and why do you need it, and like send me this, send me that, for what could technically be just a switch on their console saying, okay, like retention policy 0 days, right? So that implies that they're not really happy when they have to, when they're being told not to keep data, right? And they make it kind of not super easy to do, which also makes sense, right? Because they need those data to train their models and so on. But on the other hand, I don't think most of the companies, especially smaller companies, have any valuable data to worry about, right? And you know, so there's that other part. You know, what what do you know? Obviously, if you work with defense industry, if you work with banking, if you work with those kind of things, you know, you you need to be more careful. But if you do, oh, you bought this, you might be interested by this other thing as well. Well, maybe that you don't care that much, right? So there's that part.
Let me be devil's advocate, Mario, if I may. Let's say this travel company, this girl in Edinburgh, I think she was, she's got details of my bank account. She's also got medical details of me because they are needed for travel insurance and so on. And then those details fall in the hands of God knows who. So that is, to a certain extent, quite personal and quite important in terms of delicate data. But on the other hand, based on that, on the security side of things that you mentioned, when you're doing this travel stuff, you might come across, certain security information about a certain place and so on. So in a way, it doesn't matter what business you're in today, we're all touching on certain data that shouldn't be falling on the wrong hands. And, some people may feel like their privacy has been violated, if that makes sense. So what happens at that point?
I mean, 100%, like they there are things that can be, data can be anonymized. You can remove personal data if you want to use that from training. If you pass it to third party. Also, for those guys dealing with medical information, so on, they have different requirements around security that other companies do not have, right? So it's not like for them it's just whatever. They need to be more careful because they need to get certified, and to get certified, they need to go through certain process and so on, right? So I think 100% it has to be, we have to be smart there. But like, I wouldn't trust by default any of those big tech bros, big tech companies. I mean, they have to respect what you signed in a contract, because they're just too big not to respect those contracts, right? But what's your ability to really read it and get proper opinion on what are you signing up for? So like by default, I just assume whatever I upload online is just, those companies will use it without my permission. That's kind of my cynical perspective on things, right? And if that's not something you're happy with, maybe you should host it locally and be more, just control your stack. But now for this client that I mentioned around legal contracts, and we're having some calls with those construction companies, and they're really not thinking about using those third-party models to analyze their legal data. It's just that it's out of question for them. Like, are we not even thinking about this? Like, no, but don't worry, they're gonna they said that they're gonna treat it properly. It's not gonna cut with them because they just don't trust it, and I think they're right. So a lot of those companies will end up having to have their own AI running on their on premise, because how do you know, right? And it might be billions of dollars worth of data leak and reputation cost and so on. So I think we shouldn't trust them. Like, okay, they said they're gonna use it, but on the other hand, they provide amazing technology effectively for free, and there is a way when you do the compromise between data and product, and what you're gonna get as a product. That's my take on it.
Fair enough. That's an interesting take. Well, thank you very much for that, gentlemen. I'm not going to reset the room, but for those of you that are tuning in via YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, please be aware we can't monitor your questions there. So you'll need to join us here live on Microsoft Teams. If you've got any questions for our panel, you can click on the link that is under each live stream there, or go to our website, startup to scaleup.club, and look for today's session, Startup Product and Tech Q&A 139. I am now going to read another question that was sent in, and if my panelists want to kind of go through it and get ready, but I'll read it out loud for those that are tuning in via other sessions. Perhaps this time we can go with Adrian, then Mario, then Mike. So this is a B2B SaaS platform in Manchester that provides task management tools for remote teams. She goes on to say, we're preparing for Series A and piloting with clients, but we've received complaints that drag and drop functionality behaves differently on Firefox, Safari, Chrome, and it's affecting productivity. She says, we're using React, and while it performs well on Chrome, other browsers have compatibility issues. Could you guide us on optimizing our React components for uniform behaviors across browsers? And are there specific libraries or testing tools that could help with ensuring that our drag and drop and other interactive features are consistent? Now, this is all Greek or Arabic to me, but I would have thought, there is, these are built in already and you don't really need to do it. But anyway, let's hear from our panel. So Adrian, did I say Mario? Yeah. Or Adrian, Michael, and then Mario, I think I said, didn't I? Take it away, please, fellas.
Yeah, okay. So, well, for me, I'm not really able to help you with this. I'm not experienced in React. I mean, obviously, having something compatible across different browsers, you do need to test for with whichever tools or modules or frameworks you're using. But in the specific question, I couldn't help you, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
I can jump in. I think the big thing here is React isn't your issue. React works cross browser out of the box. It'll be all down to how you've implemented drag and drop, whether you're using something open source, whether your team have actually implemented it themselves. Feel free to reach out to me of the actual module, but recommendations for tooling, there's Browser Stack, which allows you to cross browser test in the cloud. So essentially you log into their platform, they equally can run that on real hardware, and then it kind of streams it back to you. What it's doing, you can also access dev tools through those platforms, so you can really see what's going on. Equally, Source Labs do their own version of that similar software. You can equally automate that then through your CI/CD pipeline, so you're constantly testing against different devices. It has that all as automated testing for you out of the box. There are open source drag and drop libraries, so look at them for React. But the big thing here is actually speak to your team. They're not doing their job properly if it's that reacting differently across all browsers. It's part of the role of a front-end engineer, full-stack engineer, to actually test across all of these devices. Safari and Chrome are on WebKit, which is the background kind of what the browser is utilizing. So they are similar to how they behave, but they have their nuances. There's also a number of other browsers that, like Arc, for instance, that then is on top of Chromium in the background. So they act in a similar way, but Firefox has always been its own outlier, and Safari used to be. Safari's kind of becoming the new Internet Explorer. It's also odd you haven't mentioned any kind of Microsoft, so I check your browser there too, because it still is one of the largest browsers utilized other than Chrome, and check them. But yeah, really crack down on your team and getting them to test stuff thoroughly in every browser and build out your kind of QA process before you release software.
You're on fire, Mr. Tempest. Thank you very much for that, Mike. Mike, can I ask you a favor, please?
Yeah.
Would you mind checking on LinkedIn? I've tagged all three of you to today's live stream there. And if you wouldn't mind in the comments to put some of those names that you mentioned. You
Sure
may not
thing.
remember them all, that's fine. But if you can, would really appreciate that. And in the meantime, perhaps Mario might want to add something here as well.
No, I think Michael covered it all, so yeah, we can just move on.
Okie dokie, super duper. Thank you very much for that. Right, a quick reset of the room because we've only got 22 minutes to go, which means they'll run out much quicker than we would like to. So today is Startup Product and Tech Q&A number 139. I've got 3 fantastic experts in product and tech, and they're taking questions for free from founders in the audience who are building your early stage product or tech. Those questions can be on anything from product roadmap to design to prototype to testing to landing pages, apps, full stack, DevOps, automation, low to no codes, launching your MVP, and anything in between or beyond for that matter. All you have to do is type your question in the chat, then I'll give you the mic and you can ask the panelists live. If, however, you're tuning in via LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there live. Therefore, you would need to join us interactively here on Microsoft Teams to get guidance that works for you that way by asking the panel. There's a link to our Microsoft Teams. By the way, it's live audio only, but there's a link on all of those live streams. But if for any reason you can't get through, just go to our website, startup-to-scaleup.club, find today's session, Startup Product and Tech Q&A 139, and you'll be able to click join and register quickly and then join us here. Now, if your questions today are not on product and tech, please save them for the other rooms we run. On Mondays, it's talent. Today, as you can see, it's product and tech. Wednesdays, it's growth. Thursdays, it's fundraising. And second Friday of the month, it's startup law. And third Friday of the month, it's finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of those via our website. Or the best thing to do probably is to join our WhatsApp group. There's an icon of that group on our website, and you'll get alerts to all future sessions. Now, I guess we can go to another question that was sent in. Where is it? Okay, my e-commerce platform, I think that's the one. Yeah, my e-commerce platform in Manchester has recently seen user growth, resulting in rising cloud costs due to demand surges. We're using AWS, but without strong cost monitoring practices. Could you advise us on automated cost monitoring tools within AWS? And are there specific optimization practices for handling unexpected traffic peaks? Geez. Is as detailed and as technical as you can get when it comes to cloud, I think. Let's see who can start this first. Perhaps we can start with Mario, then Adrian, then Mike, please, fellas.
Okay, I guess it's a good problem to have. I hope that this raising traffic surges bring more revenue, right? But yeah, generally, a lot of that is already available in AWS. I cannot recall the actual names, but there's more than one product there that can, do analysis, do monitoring, do, tell you about what's going on with your account, where do you need, is there something to optimize on utilization and so on, right? Now, how to save money on Amazon depends a lot on what's their current architecture. What usually people go and default setup on Amazon is like to go rent servers from them and have kind of classic hosting setup just executed through AWS, right? And it's probably most expensive because then you have one environment for staging, one for development, then you have production environment, which is half of the day pretty much idle and so on, right? And that's not easy to modernize in a more cost-effective way, which is usually more more cost effective, but also more complex. You know, having some sort of container, some sort of, you know, better scheduling orchestration system. But that's something that can be done, right? So, you know, what I would probably advise is, you know, just to spend literally like spend a day just going through those expenses and figure out why are they there, right? And developers should be able to get you know, with some sort of plan on how to do it, how to get notified, how to get is there something where they could save and so on, right? If not, its entire industry on AWS or cloud cost saving consultants and freelancers and so on that can do the job, because a lot of people have the same problem. But generally, just applying common sense and understanding, okay, we charged 500 last month on this. Okay, let's see what happened there and why is it, right? And you know, those guys that are able to generate those costs are usually, or at least should be able to to fix it as well, right? If not, then you know, maybe it's time to look elsewhere. And as I said, there's a, I think it's industry now of people doing only that for a living.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for that. I think the next one was Adrian. Yes, Adrian.
Yeah, so I actually have more experience with the Google Cloud Platform, GCP, than AWS, but I'm assuming there'll be very similar things, which is, I mean, for us, we've had the same problem over the last year or so. We've had to deal with spikes in activity and general background growth. And to be honest, the bills can get eye-watering if you don't keep on top of them. So there's usually some built-in tools anyway. And as Mario just explained, it's well worth spending a bit of time digging into the platform and having a look at how it breaks down costs. Certainly on Google Cloud, you can see all the different components over the day and the month and so on, and you can drill down into understanding, you know, what the database costs are, what the virtual machine, the Kubernetes pods, the networking and so on. You can break all of that down. And certainly what we found over time was that it's worth looking at the resources you've allocated some of the virtual machines and so on, because if, for example, you're running a low spec and there is high demand on that resource, sometimes, depending on your settings, it will spin up more resources which are actually more expensive than just having a slightly higher spec that can deal with it in general. So also with Google, you can do cost estimation. They have a module where you can actually plug in different sort of setups using different components, and it will estimate the cost for you. And I would imagine AWS will have something similar as well. So from our point of view, what we've done is we monitor very closely. I literally look at our billing every day just to see what's happening and checking that there are no large surges in anything. We try and optimize the resources we're using. That doesn't mean using the smallest resource, but using something that's most appropriate. And then when we do get spikes, we try and understand what services are causing those. So for example, we have some analytics modules, which are actually quite heavy on the database, and that can cause some resource reallocation, which actually does then percolate down to costing a bit more money.
Hey, that is brilliant advice. Thank you very much to both of you. Mike, any thoughts?
Pretty much what's already been said. In AWS, you can do a lot of what was just said there for Google. I think the other thing to just look at is you can limit what it can auto scale to. So yes, it will get slower as the surges go, but for some, that's not an issue, and it depends on the service as well, whether it takes a little bit longer, and a little bit longer can still be 250 milliseconds. So don't like overthink it too much. And then equally, you can set limits on what can be spent, so that you don't get super surprised. And yeah, like they say, based on quota, you can get emailed based on all of that stuff. In terms of software for auto checking, I'm not aware of any, or at least I've never gone that route, because I think it's too important to automate it as such. You need someone to have eyes on this and also know how to change it and thoroughly understand what's actually going on there, in all honesty. So yeah, if you need to, reach out to a consultant. If you don't and you can manage it in team, then do that.
Some good stuff. Thank you very much to all three of you. We've got 13 minutes to go. So let's see if there are no live questions. Let's see if we can go through two more questions. So there's one in the chat already. I'll read this out loud for those tuning in via LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. And then maybe if we can take another one after it, that would be great. So let's try and keep our answers a bit shorter, around a minute. Anyway, this is a Series A SaaS platform in London providing data analytics for e-commerce brands, but our documentation is confusing for non-tech users. I need advice on structuring documentation in a way that makes technical information accessible, so users can get the most out of the advanced features. How can we structure it to cater to various user levels? That's actually a very interesting question. And whilst I am totally ignorant when it comes to these things, I've heard this come up a few times. Let's start with Michael, Mario, and Adrian, please.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's one real clear way to do this, which is sit down with one of those non-technical users and go through everything that you have in the API and literally note down everything that you go through there, how you talk to them, what they don't understand, and it will kind of highlight the process you need to go to, and equally in dumbing down some of the technical terminology. A lot of the time, we as engineers think, oh, all I need to do is mention the endpoint, where actually you need to flip it on its head and kind of understand it from what the customer actually gets from that endpoint. So let's say I am creating a service. Well, in your instance, it's data analytics, right? So let's say that that's Google Analytics that you've integrated with. A user would search for, how do I get page views and sessions defined by demographic? You might just have an endpoint that says demographics. Like, try and flip everything on its head to what the user actually gets out, and then you can kind of structure your content based on that, so that both technical and non-technical people can search your documentation. Search is the biggest key.
Thank you very much, Mario.
Yeah, I don't think I think we covered a lot here. So documentation is super complicated because we always come from perspective of developers, right? And it's very hard to get out of that mindset. So by default, documentation that tech team produce do not work very well on civilians, right? But there's no other way, I think, to either have civilian join the team and help with the documentation, or just have someone, a customer or whoever, sitting it through and see, like, okay, why you don't understand this, right? And sometimes it's just those the biggest problem are those things that kind of self-explanatory for us, but then for non-technical person would be, okay, what is this? Oh, but I need to go there and create account. Ah, okay, cool. How do I do that? Right? How do I create account? So those kind of questions, which we often thought we don't need to answer because, well, just go there and do it, right? But yeah, it doesn't work like that for everyone. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, Adrian.
Yeah, so I'll tell you how we've sort of tackled this problem with what we do. We have a wiki, which we use Wiki.js, which is basically a website where we can put the documentation up and we can edit it on the fly. I'm actually pretty much responsible at the moment for writing that. So I have coders that work on the coding, and I'm the one that kind of interprets it for the customer. And if I can write it down in a usable way, I hope the customer can as well, because I spend a lot of time talking with the customer. So what I say there is that even if your coders or your product development team are working on the sort of the manuals and the knowledge base, it's well worth having someone in the team who is a little bit away from that, i.e. a customer or a user, to actually try and write it down. We do several things. So we embed information icons in our app that points directly to relevant pages in the knowledge base. As we push new features up, I try and stay on top of those and write you know, even just a paragraph or something in the knowledge base to explain if something's changed. We also try and split out some of the functionality in terms of the user journey. So, for example, frequently asked questions, sort of things that you want to do. As Mario just said, you know, even logging in and setting a new password or something, the coders will think that should be straightforward. It's not always as intuitive as you think. It's always worth writing that down, maybe using screen grabs, even for the simple steps, because once they're on board and they get used to it, that will help. And then we've also done things like case studies, where those are kind of end user applications which show how something has been done on the platform rather than a sort of step-by-step feature guide. So I think by building out a few different examples along those lines, you can probably populate a sort of a reasonable manual to help your customers.
I hear you. That's brilliant stuff from all three of you. Really appreciate that. Let's go to our last question of the day. We, I think, had some shy and perhaps lazy people tuning in today. It would have helped if we had live questions, but nevertheless, let's take this last one. This is from a fintech in London. So our fintech platform in London provides real-time stock market data, but users have complained about delays in data updates impacting their trading decisions. Oh boy, that is hot. We're about to raise Series A and need to optimize our code for low latency to improve user experience. Could you provide guidance on restructuring our code to minimize latency, especially for high frequency data updates, and would moving certain processes closer to the database or leveraging in-memory caching, help achieve our performance goals? Now, I've no idea how to work this out, but one thing I know, having worked with companies that do trading, a billionth of a millisecond can make all the difference in the world sometimes between a trading firm or person or entity going down and one surviving or thriving. So perhaps, since Adrian is unmuted, we can start with Adrian, then Mario, then Michael. You've got about a minute each because we've got only 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, I mean, I mean, this was the story Flash Boys, the book about being as close to the exchange as possible. But in terms of coding, I mean, I mean, you're just going to have to go through and look at where the bottlenecks are in your code, given that this is so critical. Certainly, caching, bringing. So if it's on a platform, are all the components like the database and the virtual machines that are running the code, you know, nearby in terms of on the platform? Are they, for example, all in the same geographical location, or are you actually pinging something off platform across the world in order to do it? So it's a case of looking at the architecture that you've got, your DevOps environment, and just unpicking it bit by bit. I can't think of any other way than doing it that way.
I hear you. Thank you, Adrian. Mario?
I mean, it's very hard question, and kind of we don't know details, right? And details hard to say, but generally all those high frequency trading companies, they have servers in very close to the exchanges, right? And you know, they probably not going to use, I don't know, Node.js and whatever. It's probably going to be, lots of those things will be in some other languages, you know, like either, like, I don't know, is it Java or C++ or C or whatever, something that's, you know, that's faster, and they can deal with that kind of data is as close to real time as possible, right? Obviously, now where do you keep data? Is it in memory? It probably is, and so on, right? But those questions are, you know, we cannot answer them now. Like, probably need to see, like, why do you need latency? Okay, where is that problem, right? And okay, we want to be able to execute trade faster than now, right? And then, okay, so how fast we execute now? And you see, okay, we execute in 100 milliseconds. Okay, let's see how's that 100 milliseconds split between. Oh, we have 20% goes to actual trip to the data center, right? So, okay, that's that distance part. So we move server closer to the warehouse, to the exchange. Now you have that part covered, right? Okay, so what do we have now? Then you have, and then you kind of just start diving into it and figuring it out part by part, and see like if you want to cut those 25 milliseconds that are there, oh well, you cannot do it in those, you know, dynamic languages. You need to write it in C, and then you sit there and do it, right? And then, you know, so it's kind of just digging a hole in the ground until you find the gold, right? Or I don't know if that's the best metaphor, but there's no easy. My point is there's no easy solution for this, right? You need to do it.
Makes sense. Thank you very much for that, Mario. Last but not least, Michael.
Yeah, I'll be quick because I've got a hard stop. But analysis is what you need to do. Ultimately, it feels like you need to just thoroughly understand where the data is coming in, equally checking that the actual data source you're using isn't the slow part. Then you can look at infrastructure, then you can look at code, go function by function, understand how everything is performance-wise, and then that will give you a much, much bigger picture of where the problem is. In-memory caching for real-time data doesn't sound right, unless it's caching just simple, like, functional code. But yeah, I do the analysis first. That's the biggest part.
So an in-depth technical audit, basically, and then you'll take it from there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much from all three of you gentlemen. We've only got 1 minute to go, but if any of you want to give us an parting words, you're more than welcome to. Perhaps Mike, since he's got a hard stop, or the others, it doesn't matter. Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd just say if anyone wants to carry on the conversation anywhere, just feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Always open to a conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Mike. Have a great day. Adrian?
Yeah, likewise, I'm on LinkedIn, so if anybody wants to touch base, please do. It's great to have been on here. Thanks for those questions. They were great. Thanks, Anton.
Thank you, Adrian. Mario?
Yeah, thanks, Anton. Happy to be here every other week. So yeah, talk to you soon.
Well, thank you very much. Huge thanks to everyone that tuned in, especially those of you that did it via Microsoft Teams, but also the others on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. Next time, please, all of you, do join us interactively here on Microsoft Teams, and try to refrain from sending questions, but come and ask them yourself, because it makes for a better experience. And actually, our panelists are better placed to help you if you're here and if there's follow-up questions, which normally there are on these occasions. Just a quick reminder, we run 6 regular sessions: Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month startup law, third Friday of the month startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and they're all free, of course, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startup2scaleup.club. And actually, the best thing to do probably is also join our WhatsApp group, where you'll get all future alerts. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Growth. We've got at least 2 brilliant ladies on the panel that will help us. And for now, have a great day, afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are, and God bless you all. Bye-bye.